Uh-oh, are things starting to change in the Edmonton real estate market? Hi, I'm Brent MacIntosh. I'm the team leader at the MacIntosh Group at Remax River City, and this is my monthly market update. It is now May 2022, and I have the numbers from April. Now, normally, listings, sales, and prices go up in the early spring and level off in the summer, with each month between January and June being busier than the last. But something weird has happened, and let's start with the listings. As I mentioned last month, we saw record numbers for listings, and when it comes to properties listed in May, it was no different. For single-family homes, there were 2,800 new listings in April. That's 400 more than March and 400 more than last April. There's almost been 7,700 single-family homes listed so far this year, 2022. That's 500 more than the same time last year, and 2,500 more than the same time of 2020. For condos, there's been 1,300 new condos listed in April, and that's almost the exact same number as March and April of last year. So the condos listed so far this year for 2022 is only about 25 more than last year. So not a huge difference in the condo market. There were 1,704 single-family homes sold in April. In March, there were 1,920. And last April, there were 1,819. So sales were down by 11% compared to March and down 6% from April of last year. So that's really, really strange. Now, those don't seem like huge numbers to be worried about, but I can't remember an April ever that was slower than March. And I've been doing this for over 22 years now. So that's a really strange thing that we're seeing. For condos, there were 791 condos that sold in Edmonton in April versus 852 in March and 625 last April. So not as big of a difference again in the condo market. Sales are down by 4% compared to March, so again, small number, but they're actually up by 26% compared to last April. So good news for condo owners. Here's a really interesting stat, and it's a stat that I don't often provide. It's the sales to new listing ratio, and for both houses and single family for April, it was 61%. So what that means is that 61% of the new inventory that hit the market sold. Now that's really low for houses comparatively speaking this year, but high for condos. So earlier this year, that number was actually 90% in February. And for condos, for the past 3 or 4 years, it's been sitting at anywhere between 25 and 35%. So again, pretty high for condos that we're seeing 61% of them sell for that sales to new listing ratio, but low for houses. Let's look at values, because that's what you're probably tuning in more than anything else. What's our place worth? The median sales price for single-family homes in Edmonton and area is now $466,000. That's down $2,000 from March. Again, not a gigantic amount, but highly unusual. Typically, April's prices are usually higher than March's. So again, it's only 0.4%, but I've never seen it drop in April. The average sales price for a single-family house in Edmonton is now $510,988. So $511,000 is now the average price, and you'll see that price on the news, you'll hear it on the radio. That is up from last month when it was $503,711. And if you've watched these videos before, you'll know that I don't like using the average price when it comes to watching what's going on with the market. And I find it to be a lot less accurate because just a couple of sales can really throw it off. And I'll give you an example. In March, there were 3 homes in Edmonton and area that sold for over $2 million, between 2.1 and 2.8 million. In April, there was actually 5 properties that sold over $2 million, including one that sold over 3 and one that sold over $5 million on Saskatchewan Drive. And so that really throws out the average, and it seems like prices are rising, but if we look at the median, it's a far more accurate number when we're talking about house sales. So it being down by the 2,000 is something that we should pay attention to. The median sales price for condos is $220,000. That's down $5,000 from March when it was $225,000, but it is up from last year. Same time in April of last year, it was $213,500. Again, not too much movement, just 2 to 3%. And so I would say, generally speaking, it's been pretty good so far, 2022, for condominium sales. As life continues to get back to normal, acreage sales have started to cool, and there's been less demand for acreages. If you've heard me talk before, I've said not everyone should own an acreage. If you'd like to talk about acreages, or you have any questions about anything I've talked about here today, please call us directly. We're at 780-464-0075. We've always got time for you and your referrals. Thanks so much for watching. See you in June.